asked this girl on a date, you're going to go up smelling like some effeminate pirate, like an alcoholic. You just got out of the bar.
Pirate who single-handedly took down the Kraken. So,
becoming based is quite the undertaking, especially in the midst of the extravaganza we call modern society. Culture is what we live and breathe. Separating oneself from their tacit understanding of the world is not easy. We must reignite the flame of Western civilization. Welcome to Chapter 1 of Old West, New Men. So, Western civilization is the culmination, the combination of three different ancient civilizations, those three being Jerusalem, Athens, and what I'm going to speak on today, which is Rome. We will discuss many things about it in the future of this podcast, but today I want to read an excerpt from Livy. Now, Livy was a historian who lived near the time of Christ's life. I want to read just an excerpt from his first book of the Histories of Rome, and I quote, "Here are the questions to which I would have every reader give his close attention. What life and morals were like, through what men and by what policies, in peace and in war, empire was established and enlarged. Then let him note how, with the gradual relaxation of discipline, morals first gave way, as it were, then sank lower and lower, and finally began the downward plunge which has brought us to the present time, when we can endure neither our vices nor their cure." And that is precisely for the predicament we find ourselves in today's world. But to find the solution, to find how we solve it and how we reclaim what we once had, what we once were, we first have to look to our history, where we come from, what is Western civilization, today we don't even know what it is. And so to begin that process, we are going to look at the founding of Rome and what it speaks to us today. Now, Rome was founded by a man named Romulus. Now, there were two twins, Romulus and Remus. They were born of a Vestal virgin who was impregnated by Mars, the god of war. Now, him being Mars impregnating this woman will be very prophetic to what Rome eventually becomes and how it's founded, but we'll get to that in a second. And so what happens is, which is, God typically has a very keen sense of humor, and in this story it's no different. See, the gods of the pantheon had a very different plan, as when Mars, which is the god of war, came and mated with Rhea Silvia and birthed two brothers, that is Romulus and Remus. When he heard of this, in his rage, had her thrown in prison, and when the twins were born, had them put in a basket and put into the Tiber River. So the twins floated down this river, eventually drifted to the bank, and along came a female wolf, or as it is called, a she-wolf, who took, in the legend, took pity upon the children and gave them her breast milk, so that way they did not die from malnourishment. There came a shepherd by the name of Faustulus, who took pity on the two boys. Him and his wife raised the two boys, and when they were young men, they would organize bands of their peers to rob or essentially take the spoils from robbers, sort of the opposite of Robin Hood. So whether they were robbers themselves or not, I don't know, we can make the argument. But that's what they did as young men when they became of age. Fast forwarding, the two brothers eventually slayed Amulius and installed Numitor, their would-be uncle, as the king of that particular city. And they knew they were going to inherit the throne of that city, but in their eagerness to attain their own riches and their eagerness to become their own men, they decided to leave the safety of their uncle's city and find their own land, found their own city. And so they went. They went to the place where they were raised by the she-wolf, or near the region, and they came upon two hills. And if you read anywhere about this particular story, this is very, very prolific. There are two hills, the Aventine and the Palatine. Now, Romulus preferred to build the city they were going to found upon the Palatine Hill, and Remus preferred the Aventine. Their argument began. They couldn't decide what they were going to do, so they returned back to the place where their uncle ruled and asked him, "What should we do for this argument?" Now, this is a very interesting point. Their uncle suggested you need to decide this by augury. Now, augury is another religious practice, which is essentially bird watching, to simplify it, is a way of seeing the will of the gods. And so they took his advice and they went back and they said, okay, we are going to decide by augury. And so Remus went out to watch the Aventine and Romulus went out to watch the Palatine. Eventually what happened, Remus spotted 6 vultures above the Aventine, while Romulus spotted double that, 12, above the Palatine. 12, another very important number we'll come back to. Now, the interesting about this is Remus saw the 6 first, and Romulus saw the 12 later in the day. So again, another argument comes about of, okay, is it the first 6 we saw, or is it the greater number that we saw? So the argument escalated, and Romulus slayed his brother Remus, not wanting to share glory, not wanting to resolve the issue, but wanting power for himself. So he slays Remus and begins constructing his city upon the Palatine Hill, which Rome still sits on today. He goes about constructing the government of how it's going to operate. And this is where we start to see the very, very first versions of what Western civic life looks like. He takes the Etruscan sort of legacy, the Etruscan style of government by appointing 12 lictors. Now, lictors are sort of these advisors that serve to him as the king, who carry fasces. Now, fasces, if you notice, a fasces is a Roman axe with twigs wrapped around the base. It is indeed the logo of this podcast above the Dallas skyline, and this serves as a very, very important iconography in Western civilization. If you look at the house chambers, you'll see them on both sides of the speaker stand. You have 12 lictors, and they help administer justice and be advisors of the king and such. And he also appoints 100 senators. And so this is the first time we see a sort of legislative body like this. And so this is the story of how Rome was founded. Rome eventually goes from a kingdom to a republic to an empire. But this is the beginning, the very, very beginning of how Rome was founded. It is the very beginnings of what we are heir to.
You were right, priest. You were right.
Speaking of rivalries, I want to talk a little bit about one of my favorite movies, Count of Monte Cristo, which came out in 2002. You may have seen it, you may have not. It's a family classic, at least in my household, and I think it's a very slept-on movie, to be honest. Containing almost every aspect you could want in a film. It's got action, swordsmanship. It's got the romance there with him and Mercedes. Drama, a bit of humor. It's a survival story. There's money, greed, discovery. Mainly what I want to talk about today is vengeance. The thing about Count of Monte Cristo is they get the concept of vengeance right, where a lot of other movies fall short. So in most films, you have just a man who maybe loses a loved one, and he goes after the guy who killed him. After the final battle, that's just kind of the culmination of everything. It's fine, the story ends. Edmond Dantes is not satisfied after he kills Mondego. Typical Jim Caviezel fashion, biblical themes riddled throughout. So even after Dantes gets vengeance on every single person that has done him wrong in the past, he's not fulfilled with that. And at the end, he realizes the priest was right. He says,
You were right, priest.
When they're up on the hill of Shadow Deep, after he buys it, he says,
All that was used for vengeance will now be used for good.
It illustrates the ups and downs of a Christian's life, really well, I think. It begins with, he's a young, optimistic guy. He's mainly shallow belief that he just accumulated in his household. And then he goes through a trial. He gets taken to jail. His faith is being put to the test. He even loses it at one point after years and years in the Shadow Deep, even with other people speaking into his life, like the priest. After he escapes, he seeks to fill the void he has in his heart with worldly things, all the gold he gets, the mansions, the estate, vengeance, how he lost all those years of his life, and his status as a count. He goes from poor guy to a count, so gets his ego up a little bit too. At the very end of the movie, it's really, really cool because he looks around the people around him. You got Mercedes and the two others, and the most important people are walking off this island with me. One other interesting thing is Edmond Dantes represents 3 different major biblical characters. He represents Job's suffering. He has a strong faith to start, and he gets every single thing taken away from him. He accumulates the wealth of Solomon and gains a lot of wisdom, learning from the priest. Additionally, he gets the fighting abilities of David, seen at the end where he's physically superior to Mondego in swordsmanship. Jim Caviezel always manages a way to bring in these other themes, and now he's doing more, outspoken Christian films, but even back then, he had a lot of wisdom to share. It's a wholesome movie with all these different aspects of this film. That's why it is one of my favorite movies. It's got some great themes in there. If you haven't already, go check it out. Buy it on DVD, don't stream it. We got a big movie coming out over Thanksgiving. I think everyone is looking forward to.
Yes, one of the greatest military leaders of all time is getting his own film. And so I think it's about time. The little Corsican who came to rule the people he initially hated gets his own film.
Let me cue up this trailer room.
Yeah, let's see if he's really everything people are ranting and raving about. I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure it out with you. So here we go.
See if Ridley Scott's up to his usual antics.
Yeah.
No doubt you're seeing the chaos in the streets.
All right. One thing I really appreciate. I really appreciate that they got the clothing right.
Yeah. A lot of films can do that wrong, like the recent
Most
Robin
of them
Hood.
look like complete dorks.
Yeah.
This guy looks like a
I
dude.
promise you brilliant successes.
Okay. I don't think he's made a single bad movie.
This is my uniform.
Well, it's not like
I led the French victory at Toulon.
Action scenes are gonna be crazy.
oh man.
What is your name?
Napoleon.
Has the course of my life just changed? Napoleon.
I'm destined for greatness. But those in power will only see
Real
as
sets, no CGI,
Suggest you take the throne.
at least minimal CGI.
Shall we vote?
Oh yeah, I think they were happy to vote.
Just gonna bring that Joker madness
The world
in this role.
with his egotism and his lack of simple good manners.
I mean, like you're any better, John? You could probably listen.
Yeah.
You think you're great? You are just a tiny little prick.
People love him.
It's nothing without me.
All of Europe is uniting forces against me.
What's the outcome of this if you don't succeed?
Your Majesty, we are discovered. Good.
Nice.
I'm the first to admit when I make a mistake.
I'm curious to see if they accurately depict that.
I simply never
that
do.
actually did happen. I'm curious if they exaggerate.
Oh, that
I
looks
have no
sick.
doubt.
Looks great.
It does look great. Oh yeah, that's it right there.
I think that'll give Oppenheimer a run for its money.
It'll definitely give Oppenheimer runs for its money. You know, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see by how much. You know, I've been really excited for some movies in the past, and they really just didn't come up to the hype. So I'm really hoping though, because
If it's anything like The Last Duel or Gladiator, any of those movies, I think
it'd be incredible.
Ridley Scott just never lets you down. So
No, he put some real realness to his movies. They're actually gritty. They've got they're down in the dirt. They actually have something to them. So it is the age-old argument, just like beaches versus mountains or apples versus oranges. The two most prolific bars in all of Squatch's history: Wood Barrel Bourbon.
Bayron.
Now, Wood Barrel Bourbon is truly, obviously superior in every way. It is like your masculine grandfather smoking a cigar in his deep, rich leather chair, reading a proper book, having a proper scotch. That is precisely the aroma that this brings. I mean, there's just no beating it.
I just can't get on board with that. I mean, you're sitting over here like a 60-year-old chain smoker, apple-shaped obesity, can't even put his shoes on properly. Some real style, you gotta go with Bourbon, right? You smell like Captain Jack Sparrow running around the Caribbean.
So
Free as can be. It's like sandals, Jamaica.
So let me get this straight. You're gonna go up to your date. You ask this girl on a date. You're gonna go up smelling like some effeminate pirate, like an alcoholic. You just got out of the bar.
Pirate who, mind you, single-handedly took down the Kraken. So,
But you still smell like an alcoholic.
alcoholic. Yours is named after a bourbon.
No, but it's the wood from the barrel, not the actual alcohol. I mean, come on.
We know Bayrum was one of the original bars that Squatch released. It's one of the OGs. This one walked, so this one could run. And, yeah.
No, I think this was just the improved version. It was much better.
No.
Yeah.
This is the crown jewel of Squatch. It always has been.
Yeah, it has zero grit. What is your skin sensitive or something?
There's a time and place for grit, but not every time you shower.
So guys, let us know in the comments below which one you enjoy more. Now it's obviously going to be Wood Barrel Bourbon for all the G's out there. If you want a real masculine bar soap, put Wood Barrel Bourbon down in the comment. Oh, and ladies, if there are any females who stumble upon this random video on the internet, which I doubt, but if you do, which one would you rather your man smelling like? Obviously, you don't want him smelling like an effeminate pirate who just got out of the bar. You're obviously going to want him, in his leather chair smoking a cigar. Yeah.
Just keep telling yourself that.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. Well, until next time, keep watching with Wood Barrel Bourbon. Keep reading, and we'll see you next time.